So this is the dossier review, and this is just part two. So I'm going to be looking into a couple of the other sections that are part of the dossier, though it's still not all of it. So these are some of the sections that we're following what we were looking at last time. So it's analytical procedures, validation of the analytical procedures, batch analysis, and justification of specification. So in regards to analytical procedures, this is just the procedures that are used for testing the drug substance. They have ICH guidelines that have to be provided in order to go through the World Health Organization and also through ethics committees. The analytical validation information is all of the experimental data for the analytical procedures that are used for testing the drug substance. And this is just something that they make a different section to make sure that you provide not only the analytical procedures, but also the validation for them. There is the batch analysis, and that is a description of all of the batches and the results of each batch analysis that has to be provided. This is, again, to make sure that all the manufacturing process, everything is going smoothly, to make sure that the regulations are being kept. And then the justification for the drug substance specifications have to be provided, again, for the manufacturing purpose and for making sure that everything is in order with what you're providing the World Health Organization, with what you're providing the manufacturer, along with what you are saying is happening. This part is a little longer, mainly because it's pretty important to the process of creating any drug product. So this is a container closure system part of the dossier review, and this is where you have to include a description of the container closure systems that will be provided in your drug product. So this has to include the identity of materials, of construction to each primary packaging component, specifications of those materials and packaging components. These specifications have to include descriptions that are identifiable, and so this includes like whatever the packaging is. It has to be critical specifications, the dimensions of the packaging when that is appropriate. So like if it's going to be a vial for a vaccine, how the dimension works in regards to how many milliliters it's going to be, how it's going to look. There have to be the non-functional secondary packaging. So the vial of the vaccine will be the one providing protection, but how are you going to be shipping this vial? And that's going to be like, for example, a box of where you're going to store. You're going to tell them how many vials would be stored there, how they would be protected. This only has to be a brief description. The functional secondary packaging components, which is like how you would protect the vials, is something that has to be addressed, but it's not something that has to be fully gone into. It also has to, with specifications, it has to come with the suitability of how it should be, how it should be suitable for how you choose the materials, the protection from moisture, light, the compatibility of materials of construction with the specific drug substance that you're using. So in this case, vaccines. And it has to, include how you're going to try to prevent leaking, how the container could help absorb anything that might leak, and the safety of the materials of constructions for the vaccines, because it's not only you are making a product, you're also trying to ship it safely and make sure that this product makes it to its destination. So these are a little shorter parts of the dossier. There is 3.2.S.5, which is the reference standard or materials. So this is just information on the reference standards or the reference materials that are being used for testing the drug substance. So these are just something that you have to provide, yet again, because of the importance of stability, the manufacturer, and all of the things that was talked about in the first presentation. All of the parts from 3.2.S.7 talk about stability, and there is a specific part on stability, summary, and conclusions. So this is a part of the dossier where you explain the types of studies conducted previously before ever entering all this information to the World Health Organization. So you have to tell them, the studies, the protocols that were used.
But So, but this is different to, for example, for the part that you are proving experimental data. What is the difference with this, the last section that you say that is summary of study results and all of that?
So the part that is the summary of studies and results is specifically looking at the stability of the product. So this is an
Okay.
entirely different section. It has gone from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.7. So this is like quite looking at the stability of the vaccine itself. And that's why they're looking further into what experiments you have done, because as previously stated, you have to be shipping these materials out. You're going to have to be finding a way to get them to different places. So you're looking at how a container will be able to take them, but you also have to look at, like, will your drug and substance survive all of these other conditions? What have you done to make sure that wherever you are sending it, that product
Okay.
is not going to do anything that you wouldn't want it to do?
Okay.
So the stability is going to be looking at that. It's a summary of results, and it also shows degradation studies. So this is what I was talking about. So it's like you have put your vaccine through conditions that are going to test its stability, especially if you're sending into tropical areas where perhaps they might not have as much access to a refrigeration, or how you know that it's going to last if maybe it can't be refrigerated for a long period of time. So that's something that this part is looking into. And it's looking into the storage conditions, how much since the release date it can last, like shelf life, so that to make sure that you have like an expiration date, how long it can last, and that you've like made sure to look into that.
Okay.
Um, a second part of just the stability is 3.2.S.72, and that's just a post-approval of all the stability protocol and the stability commitment. So it's just kind of a, you already gave the explanation, all of the things that you have done to prove it. This is just kind of like an, okay, um, make sure that there's a stability commitment and kind of like sign that off. And then the 3.2.S.7.3 is stability data. Um, and that is the result of the stability studies. Um, like I said, the force degradation and stress conditions, and they have to be presented in like graphical format. It can also be a table. It could be a narrative, but usually since you're providing them with data, it usually is graphical or a table. And the information analytical procedures has to be used to generate the data that you're showing them in the stability data, and the validation of these procedures has to be met. So that means you have to tell them the manufacturer, you have to tell them like everything that went down. So that's why usually a table or a graph really helps show them the data that you have done. 3.2.P is a whole section about the drug product. So you have to tell them the name. And this, instead of telling them the manufacturer, they're going to start asking you about the dosage form. So to look into 3.2.P, there's a description of composition of the drug product. So this is a description of the drug product and its composition, specifically providing the dosage form, the list of components in the dosage form. So kind of like what you are including in every dosage, the function of those components, and their, you're going to have to reference again their quality standards. So even though there was a whole section on quality for the product that you are submitting to the World Health Organization, this specific part is also asking you to look and reference their quality standards, which you probably have already referenced before, in line with the manufacturer's specifications. You also have to include the description of reconstruction diluents, so that is usually with like a chemical compound. And yet again, you have to include the type of container and closure, as previously stated, that is going to be used to accompany your specific drug product. For 3.2.P.2, there's pharmaceutical development. So this is also very important in the process. The pharmaceutical development section has to contain a lot of information. I've bulleted a couple: developmental studies, formulation and manufacturing processes. It has to include about the container closure system, about biological attributes, how the instructions that you will be including with your drug product are appropriate to how to apply the product or how to use the product. These are, you are going to be showing them studies for this as well, and they have to be distinguished from the previous control studies that you have been showing them, and you have to identify like different specifications, like I said, about biological attributes. Most importantly, the instructions that are appropriate to how you use this drug product have to be included here. It also has to include formulation, as stated in one of the bullet points. So it's like, what is the formulation of your product? And most importantly, how can this help you reproduce the batch? There's going to be different clinical and critical parameters to how you develop your product. And this part is one of the parts that's just letting you know, like, you have to tell them how you batch reproductivity. Reproductivity is something that is going to stay constant. There has to be equal product performance and product quality throughout all of the different batches that are made. So the pharmaceutical development section is making sure that that is being kept in mind, along with making sure that anything to do with the manufacturing process keeps in mind that quality, quantity idea. And then the last part is just the components of the drug product, which you have to list out, again, in name and dosage form. And those are all the parts that I have for today.